Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. I'm in Tucson, so it's still afternoon, but I think in Texarkana it's a little bit later. In Texas it's a little bit later, so good evening to everybody. Welcome to week 11 in CA 121, Culinary Skills and Techniques. And Chef Suzanne and I welcome you to another fine live session. We're almost there, ladies and gents. Week 11 out of 12. That means we have 2 assignments to go, so we're getting down to the wire. It's time to push hard. We want to see everybody finish really super strong. It's really important. Some of you, we have some real rock stars in this class, and we have some real dedication from people like Crystal that are here on a religious basis. And thank you, everybody, for your hard effort and all the hard work that you've put into the program. Keep going, finish strong. There's a couple of you in this class that are still lagging behind, and we are here to help you succeed. There's nothing more that Chef Suzanne and I want than to see you succeed and get through this class. And we are here at your service to do what we can to help you. So please reach out to us. We'll be reaching out to you so we can help you get through this class. As a friendly reminder from the corporate office, if you do not pass CA 121, there's not an opportunity to take it again. This is the final block for this class, so if you do not pass, that means you will have to re-enroll into the program and start from the beginning. Once again, we do not want that for anybody. So please give us the opportunity to help you. I will mention this several times throughout the course of the evening for this class. As a reminder, for week 12, your assignments will be due no later than Sunday, March 31st at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is 1 week from this Sunday. You will have to have all of your assignments in and your makeup work in. I'm sorry, but we cannot accept any last-minute submissions on Monday morning or Tuesday morning. It puts Chef Suzanne in a real bind. Because she's turning around and beginning a new block, so we just can't do that. So should you need to get something in, hey, give us a call. We're going to help you out, but do not procrastinate. Chefs don't do it. We don't do it in industry, and we don't want you doing it in school either. Now is the time to develop that habit. So once again, all assignments for week 12 are due Sunday, March the 31st, no later than 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure you get your work in. Week 10. How was it? I want to hear about the meatloaf, or if you did a different baked protein, your starch and your veg. Let's start with Crystal. Crystal.
Yes.
Tell us about that meatloaf.
I did a bacon meatloaf.
Okay.
It was different for me the first time I did it. It did come out good. It's a little tough, I guess, in texture in the outside.
Did you lard it or did you bard it?
What do you mean?
Okay. Remember last week we talked about barding and larding, right? Which technique did you use?
I don't know.
Did you put the fat on the inside or on the outside?
On the outside.
So you barded.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, that's called barding. Larding is when we insert a needle into the protein and we inject fat into it.
Oh, okay.
And that's something in the industry you'll probably hear every now and then. You might see your chef when you first get into the kitchen walking around with a large needle, and it's not an addiction-related issue. It's something that he'll use to inject fat into a drier protein, such as turkey or some other types of poultry as well. So go ahead.
Okay. I lost my thought.
You were talking about
what did you make with your meatloaf, Crystal?
Oh, I made green beans, sauteed green beans with garlic butter, and I made mashed potatoes with the brown gravy.
Wow. How'd you make the gravy?
With what do you call it? The bacon fat.
Oh, good.
I used that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, with a little bit of flour.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and some broth.
Oh, good. Good job. Good job. And you said the meatloaf had kind of a funny texture?
Well, it was rough, like in the outside, because I wasn't familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like, I don't know.
I think Crystal's just not used to meatloaf because she never had it
Yeah.
before. But just from looking at it, it looked amazing. It
Oh,
looked
wow.
so good. She did such a nice job, and she commented in her narrative that it was very new to her, so she wasn't, I don't think she was really sold on meatloaf yet, but it looks like she did an incredible job.
Wow.
I don't know what to think of it. It was delicious, but I don't know.
I think Crystal also may have written that she would have rather pattied it and thrown it on the grill.
Oh yeah,
All right.
burgers all the way.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with thinking that. You have to remember, once you learn the technique of what we're teaching you, and that's our primary concern, is that you learn the technique. But once you've mastered the technique, you can go in any direction that you want to. Like your flavors, Crystal, I don't think, I think meatloaf has a pretty standard down the middle type flavor to it traditionally. But you can really have a lot of fun with it, with utilizing fresh oregano. I've seen people put epazote in there and do all sorts of different funky flavors in there that make it what you enjoy.
Yeah.
So keep trying, keep experimenting.
I like the idea that you can put anything into it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's pretty much limited to your imagination. And Chef Suzanne and I have spoken about this before, but we really urge people to get as much exposure to different types of foods and ingredients so you can expand what we call your repertoire, which is your basically your library or your encyclopedia of what you like to work with. And the more that you expose yourself to different dishes, different foods, whether it be reading, eating, going, tasting, whatever the case is, the more you're going to grow as a culinarian. So it's very important. Thank you very much, Crystal, for those comments. It sounds like you did a fantastic job.
I enjoyed it.
Well, good job. Hats off. Chef Suzanne, what are your thoughts on week 10?
I saw some really good stuff. Obviously, Crystal was a rock star this week, but there was others not with us right now that also did some amazing looking meatloaf. Saw a lot of brown gravies like Crystal, but also saw some homemade barbecue sauce this week. Some blends that used chili sauce or ketchup with some brown sugar. Saw some Asian inspired, lots of mashed potatoes, but that's very traditional. But also saw some rice this week with some meatloaf. Saw some Brussels sprouts. So saw all sorts of good stuff this week. Just the not to mention that I want to shout out to those that are watching. Not only did I see this week's, had a lot of folks turning in some missed assignments because they've got the opportunity with all those assignments open. So I've seen lots of good assignments this week from all over the place, from folks trying to turn in some of those late ones too. So
good job. That's great news. I'm glad to hear that. Now I have to ask you a question. For the past several weeks, you've kind of mimicked some of the assignments that are going on. What did they have in the lasagna household this weekend?
Now, it's funny you should mention that because I went out this week with the intention of buying some product and making some force meat, making whether it was a meatloaf or we actually talked about making a terrine. We actually ended up at a butcher in the area that we didn't know existed and had the most amazing prime beef. So I actually ended up buying some prime sirloin and a little bit of tenderloin. And because I'm a huge fan of tartare and carpaccio, we actually ended up eating a lot of raw meat this week.
Wow.
But it was so good. But because we went to a butcher to see what they had, because I was thinking about doing a terrine with some duck. And so we went to see what else they had, and then I ended up totally going a different direction. But it was not, I really had the best of intentions. That's why we went there.
Oh, wow.
But
yeah, that's awesome. I'm a big steak tartare fan.
I like tartare. He likes carpaccio, and our youngest daughter ended up having hers a little thicker with some teriyaki glaze. So we literally had 3 different types of raw meat. Everybody had something different with some amazing beef this week. And well, it was so good. So I did have the best of intentions. So, but this week I'm definitely going to be working with them because this week is grilling. So
I love this.
I'm going to be all over this week.
I had the best carpaccio ever in Guadalajara, Mexico. at the Quinto Real, and it was served with a what they call a sea foam, where they used a ISS gun, and they filled it with like a roasted garlic cream, and it came out with foam, and it was served with this cracked black pepper aioli. It was just I don't know if it was the environment or if it was the actual dish, but it was lovely. And any other feedback about week 10?
I really was super impressed. Oh, a presentation. I mentioned to push the limits this week and to not just put everything in its own little corner, to try and build some height. And so I actually saw quite a few this week that decided to kind of push out of their own little comfort.
Oh, cool.
And I think, Crystal, did you do that? Did you kind of stack your items up and put your veggie around the outside?
I tried.
You did?
I'm not sure if it worked.
It did. I remember specifically that Crystal did it. Yep.
Good job. Yeah. Crystal, the more artistic style when it comes to plating is not something most of us get the first time. I didn't. And it is an evolution. And the more you try it, the better you're going to get and the better you're going to understand it. So every plate you put out, think about the color, height, and texture of that plate, because whomever you're serving will eat with their eyes first and their nose second and their palate third. So great job, Crystal. And thank you very much for the comments, Chef Suzanne. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look at week 11. Like Chef Suzanne was just saying, this week we're getting into grilling. And that is a big specialty out in our neck of the woods. But before you get to that part, let's take a look at week 11. Please remember, like we mentioned earlier, all assignments, including makeup work for the entire course for week 12, which is 1 week from this Sunday, March the 31st. All assignments will be due no later than 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are unable to accept any late submissions after that time. So please do not procrastinate. Please make plans to get that work done and follow through with them. Remember, you can do it. Chef Suzanne and I have your back. We are here to give you 100% support. So if you need help, raise your hand, right? We are here for you. If you fail to pass this class, you're going to be asked to re-enroll in a new program and start from the beginning. Don't go backwards. It's not necessary. And then Chef Suzanne and I are here for your support. I want everybody to remember that. And then this week, like Chef Suzanne was just commenting about, we want to see some beautifully garnished plates this week. Keep pushing the limit with that decoration. You have to remember the difference between a $5 plate and a $10 plate is often the garnish and the way it is presented. So keep pushing yourself until you get to that level. Moving on, a recommendation for this week. There's quite a bit to do this week. So Chef Suzanne and I wanted to help you get organized here. And this was sent out to you via the class messaging system earlier today. And take a look at it, and it makes a lot of sense. Attend the live session or watch the archive today. Get her done. And then read the research materials Thursday. Very important information in there, and you're going to need to know them to pass your knowledge check. Submit initial post to the discussion forum on Thursday. It's not the easiest discussion forum, so give yourself ample time to do it. Right? Complete both knowledge checks on Friday. Sit down, get a cup of coffee, give yourself 20 minutes, sit down, do the knowledge checks. Read assignment, buy ingredients, create a prep list on Friday. Get another cup of coffee, sit down for 10 minutes, right? So now you've got 30 minutes wrapped into the day, right? Read assignment, buy ingredients, create a prep list, just like we do in industry. That's what a chef does. Complete assignment, check against rubric. Submit Saturday. A rubric is what is on the assignment page, right? And it says 10% for this, 20% for that, 30% for this. You're going to want to go through your assignment and make sure, check it off. Yes, I have that. Yes, I have that. Yes, I have that. And then you'll submit your assignment on Saturday and then respond to 2 other students' posts in the discussion forum on Sunday. Walk in the park. Easy. Now, I have found throughout the years that most chefs do not give themselves enough time to get done what needs to be done. allot an appropriate amount of time for this week. And if you can follow this schedule by applying 30 minutes a day to this class, this week is going to be a walk in the park. You won't even know what hit you. So that is highly recommended. Let's take a look at this week's class page, which is kind of cool. Like Chef Suzanne was saying, she gets into this, and I really get into grilling. Here in the Southwest of the United States, we do a lot of grilling, especially from the state of Sonora, Mexico, which is about 40 minutes south of my house. We do a lot of carne asada. So let's take a look at our class page. Research materials. There you go. Make sure you read them, you know them. Discussion forum. We're going to get into detail about that here in just a moment because it's a little bit different. Thank you, Crystal, for being at our live session. We appreciate it. And then for those of you that didn't make it, which would be the remainder of the class, make sure you watch our live session archive. And then you have your $2 checks down here at the bottom. And then our assignment this week is a grilled protein with starch and vegetable. And kind of give you a look at a fellow grilling some lobster here, just to kind of give you an idea of what's coming your way in industry. Chef Suzanne, how often do you grill?
Yeah, I didn't mention, but we literally grilled this weekend because one of the things, not only did we buy the amazing beef, we also got some extra beef to throw out on the grill. Bratwurst, we had some pork sausage with green chilies, and wow. I mean, we bought all sorts of good stuff to grill. Oh, and then I like, I love chicken. So I marinated some chicken thighs and had that out there too. We actually don't have a regular grill. We have a fire pit that's got a grate over the top of it.
Oh, nice.
So we were out there with some pecan wood and just going crazy with some amazing grilled stuff. So
I like pecan because it burns awfully hot, and that's a good wood to work with.
And it's actually funny, but we'll be grilling and the neighbors will wonder what we're cooking. Like, what are you cooking over there? Because it just smells so good. Just the wood, just heat it up.
There go the chefs again.
We grill out a lot, and I love to grill. My husband's normally the fire builder because that's more his thing, but I like to do the grilling. The grilling,
yeah. It's amazing here. I mean, since we have so much sunshine on an annual basis, you can become, you can lose your breath out here because of all the mesquite smoke going through the air around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's talk about our discussion forum real quick coming up this week. Discussion forum's a little bit different this week. You're going to have to do a little bit of thinking and maybe a little bit of research. Please remember that your initial post for the discussion forum is due no later than this Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that equals 6 points. And then you must respond to 2 other students' posts no later than Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and each response is worth 2 points, which would equal 4 points because you have to make 2 responses, which will give you a total of 10 points for the assignment. There are some of you that have missed the discussion forums, and your grade reflects that. The discussion forums have pretty heavy weight on your final grade, so make sure that you get this one done. For this week, you are to choose 2 vegetables. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on my screen before I give you the actual example to give you a better understanding. So, sorry about that.
This one has a template, is that right?
No, it recommends that you make a chart.
Oh, okay. Okay, recommends a chart.
Okay. To help you understand the assignment. And so the discussion forum, as it reads, the vegetable and the starch that you're going to be using for this week, right? You have to do a vegetable and starch with your grilled protein this week. And that's what you will apply to the discussion forum. So let's say that you are going to do asparagus for your vegetable, and you will do fingerling potatoes for your starch. Fingerling potatoes are pretty much like your finger and about the color of your finger as well, so that's where they get their name. And the vegetable and starch you choose for this assignment will be the vegetable and starch for the grilling assignment. So the same applies for the vegetable and the starch. Identify proper cooking techniques. You might have to Google these, right? Identify improper cooking techniques that should not be used. Explain why those techniques should not be used. So far in this class, we've learned 9 different cooking techniques, and those are listed right down here at the bottom. So for the asparagus, you will write the pros of doing X, Y, and Z, and the cons of doing C, D, and F, right? And the same thing will apply to the fingerling potatoes. So going back to an example of what you should be submitting this week. So, for example, I wrote this out. It's probably not the grammar. Chef Suzanne's probably correcting it right now in the back of her mind. But for this week's cooking assignment, I've chosen asparagus and fingerling potatoes. For the asparagus, I would choose saute, poach, steam, roasting, or grilling them. These techniques will help keep the texture of the asparagus crisp and enhance the flavor. I would not bake, stew, or braise asparagus because it'll lose its flavor and turn to mush. Okay, so that is an example of what we want to see you write in the discussion forum. For the fingerling potatoes, I would choose saute, fry, steam, roast, and bake. All of these techniques will help create a tender yet flavorful potato. Poaching and stewing them will force them to fall apart. Grilling will not allow them to cook all the way through before burning. Using these items will complement the flavors of the butter and the steak I am preparing. Any questions about that?
I think that particular discussion forum is super interesting. It looks a little scarier than it actually is. And I think once y'all get into filling that out, you're going to be just fine. It just looks a little, it looks a little different, I guess, compared to some of the others. But I think it's very interesting and useful.
Absolutely, and if you're right on the money. And if when I initially looked at it, it is kind of like whoa. But once you read through it and you apply logic to it, right? If you were to stew asparagus, what would it be like, right? If you were to, braise fingerling potatoes, what would happen to them? So just think it through in a logical manner. Once again, Chef Suzanne and I are here to help you. Should you have any questions after you watch the live session, read the instructions, give us a call. So taking a look at this week's conversion chart, we do have 2 knowledge checks this week. One is based on the research materials and the information you receive here in this live session, and the other one is based on conversions. It's 5 questions. It's fairly simple. All the answers are right here. So you don't have to worry about that. The folks that have been doing the weekly conversions have been doing absolutely fantastic. So hats off to everybody. Good job. Moving on. Let's get to the grill. Yeah, let's do it. So when it comes to grilling in a commercial kitchen, please rid yourself of anything that you think about doing it at home. It is a different world. We use different tools. We use different equipment, and it can be a lot more intense. A good grill guy can cook 40, 50 different steaks simultaneously at 40, 50 different temperatures and know which is which. It sounds intimidating initially, but as you work your way into it, it becomes second nature. So everything that we're going to be talking about this evening, you might be a little bit intimidated by it. Please don't, because the more you practice it, the better you're going to get. It's just a matter of time. Isn't that right, Chef Suzanne?
I didn't think I would ever get good at grilling. When I was a kid, I used to watch my dad do it and think, wow, that's so dad-like, and I'll never be able to do that. And now I love to grill, and I will push the boys out the way to get to the grill.
It's a thing of fascination. We're also going to get into some certain temperatures and other techniques tonight, and you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, I have to stick a thermometer in every steak I cook, and I have to do X, Y, and Z. No, because once you become proficient, you should be able to handle it. For example, I used to run the grill at a casino many, many years ago, and we would do anywhere between 800 and 1,000 covers per night. And a lot of it was steaks. And so I was intimidated. I was a younger culinarian back then, and it was difficult to do. But after a couple of months of working on this grill, I could get through the 800 or 900 covers without a thermometer and without what we call a refire. Chef Suzanne, you want to explain refire?
Oh, refire is when you have sent out a steak, or normally steak, and it is not cooked to the right temperature, and then it comes back to the kitchen and you gotta refire. And so a lot of times that's going to end up as an expense, because, well, it is, because the first one has to go in the trash because it was overcooked, and it's just, refires are bad and costly. So
I still remember my first night as a young chef when I had no refires. I was like a pitcher that just did a no-hit 9-inning game. I was like, yes, I've done it. Yes. And it's a great feeling. Do not be discouraged. This is a skill that takes time to master. Don't expect yourself to go blowing into the grill on the restaurant and just jam out and bang out, several hundred covers and have no refires. It ain't gonna happen. Be real. Give yourself time. Learn it. Learn the information. Let's take a look at some of the tools. One of the most important things that you can do when it comes to grilling is to have your mise en place in place. And these are some of the things that we work with in kitchens. Keeping your grill clean is an extremely important measure that we're going to talk about a little bit later, why we keep it clean. But we use a grill brush, and this is generally about 36 inches long, this handle. And these are metal bristles that we only push away from us, because if we push back, our clothes will be covered in soot. And I've done that many times, and I just try not to let you make the same mistake. And then the underside is a little bit finer metal brush that will just help remove all the carbon. Kitchen towels. Kitchen towels are something that you will see prevalent in all commercial kitchens throughout the United States. We do not use things like oven mitts or any of those things. I don't know if anybody at home cooks with those oven mitts, and you put them on, you take it out, and you take it off. And only God knows what's living inside of those things, on the outside of those things. We just do not use those in commercial kitchens. We use cotton towels that you'll see right down here. And a smart broiler cook has a full stack of those folded into 4s, ready to go. The first thing I do when I'm setting up my station is I get my towels, right? Because you are dead in the water without one. For those of you that like to grill fish, which is not the most popular thing because fish is a little bit delicate and can be a little bit tricky when it comes to grilling, we do use a special spatula for fish. It's a lightweight spatula. It's slotted right down here in the corner, and it is called a fish spatula. And then a perforated spatula is quite common in the kitchen. You'll notice all these small holes in here. When you're cooking things that are very high in moisture, such as burgers that have a tendency to carry a lot of blood flowing out of them, or other juices, you don't want them flying all over your grill. So we do use a perforated spatula. We also have a regular spatula right down here that we use. You'll see always next to the grill a dish or a 6th pan of cracked black pepper and 1 of kosher salt. That's generally what we season our steaks with. It's very, very important not to season your steaks until they get onto the grill. The reason we don't do that, you have to remember that sodium draws moisture to the surface. And if you pre-season them, then they're going to get dry. Yeah, and you don't want dry steaks. That's very, very important. And I think I put this in here, but I'm going to mention it now anyway. We do not use oil-based marinades for steaks and seafood and chicken breast. We don't recommend doing that because it causes flare-ups on the grill. So we always recommend doing a brine, which is a water-based type of marinade, but we'll talk about that in a minute and help you figure that part out. Tongs come in different sizes. This is a 16-inch tong, which a lot of people like to use for larger grills. The 16 inches provides plenty of depth so your hand doesn't get warm. You'll notice most guys that work broilers, or guys and gals that work broilers, don't have that much hair down in there because they burn it. And then there's shorter tongs that can be anywhere between 6 and 8 inches. And that's what I prefer to work with. I think you have a better sense of feel and touch with the smaller tongs. And I've been running broilers for so long, no, I have no more hair left. It's all
That is too funny. I think I've been, knock on wood, very fortunate. I don't know that any of that has ever really happened to me. Maybe it's more of a guy thing, because I don't even know. My husband works in the kitchen too, and I do not know how many times over the year he's come home over the years, and it just, all the hair on his arm be gone. He'll be burning it off. It's just happened so much.
There's nothing worse than walking in the house and looking at your wife straight-eyed and say hi and have no eyebrows.
Yeah, he's come home with no eyebrows. Let's singe the little hairs in the front. Yeah. I don't know. Little bits of his mustache will be gone.
Well, I've tried to play it off, walk in the house like I'm missing one eyebrow, but I try to play it off like nothing's wrong. Hopefully she won't notice, because if she does, I'm
She
going
notices. She totally noticed. I would notice, and then I would never let you live it down. He'll talk about some of the times he's done it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not sharing horror stories. These are just some of the funny things that do happen as a result of working in restaurants, but it's a labor of love. Remember that. So moving on, go ahead and get rid of your idea of what a grill is. We're going to take a look at some commercial grills. They also get referred to as char broilers, but they are not broilers, and we're going to talk about the difference between a broiler and a grill here in a few moments as well. These are some common type grills that you see in the restaurant industry. This unit right here and this unit right here are probably the most prevalent in today's restaurants. These are what we call low boy refrigerators right here. And you will keep your proteins in these drawers. You'll pull them open and pull out your protein and put it up onto the grill. And the grill unit sits right on top. It's called a tabletop unit. This is about a 36-inch grill, which is 3 feet wide, which is about standard. It can handle a pretty good amount. This is a freestanding grill right here. Nice unit. And then we have some smaller tabletop units down here. The grates on these commercial grills are much different than the ones you have at home. They are heavy-duty cast iron that are very heavy. And the reason they are so heavy and made out of cast iron is because they absorb that heat and they maintain that level of heat. So when you put a cold steak on the top, it's not going to get real cold real quick, and they are very, very heavy duty. Most of the grills that we work with now are all done by natural gas, and they average anywhere between about 550, 600 degrees is about the average temperature. And the way that we tell in industry, and it's kind of funny, if you can hold your hand above that grill for more than 4 seconds, it's not hot enough yet, right? So you want to get about 6 inches from the grill and then put your hand over the top, and if it can stay there for more than 4 seconds, give it more time. When we come in the morning, we fire that grill up, and when we go home at night, we generally turn it off. You do not want to wait to preheat the grill. It runs all day long. Now, grills are like people, right? They have hot spots and they have cold spots. And don't assume that just because you've turned your grill on at the restaurant that the entire surface is the same temperature, because it's not. And that works out to our advantage. When we go to grill a steak, you're going to learn your hot spots and cold spots on the grill as things begin to warp and settle. Different areas will be hotter than other areas. When we go to cook a steak or a chicken breast or a chicken thigh or whatever the case may be, we'll traditionally start it on what we call the hot spot, right? And that will sear it and give those nice diamond marks that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. And then we'll move it over to the cold spot and let it rest and slowly finish. So we are cooking in 2 different heat zones throughout the night. You will also notice when that grill gets really super busy, organization is essential. If you're going to have 40 steaks on top of your grill, you're going to have to set one side for your mediums, one for your medium rares, one for your medium wells, one for your well dones, and that will be all in relation to your hot spots and cold spots. So the way we work in an industry, most of the time we use an order fire system. meaning a ticket will come into the line and the expediter will yell, ordering 2 New York strip steaks, 1 medium well. So we're going to go ahead, we'll get those steaks started. A few moments later, when they are ready for the food, they will say fire the New York medium and the New York medium well. So we will then move it back to the hot spot, bring it up to temperature, and then turn around and put it onto the expediter's plate. Did I say that right, Chef Suzanne?
You did, and I was gonna also mention there are some good videos in the class information with some great videos of grilling also. I didn't forget.
Yeah.
They may be Chef Caesar. I think it's normally Chef Caesar. I'm not sure who it is. I think it's
always Chef Caesar.
Chef Caesar.
All right, ladies and gents, moving on to temperatures. We're primarily focused on steaks this week. We're going to talk a little bit about chicken just for Chef Suzanne, but we're primarily focused on meat and grilling steaks. We work a lot with temperatures. I know I used to do this at industry to tell the temperature, right? For well done, right? You put your finger and your thumb and your pinky together and squeeze. That's what a well done steak feels like right there. Well done, right? Medium well, right? Medium rare, or medium rare, and then rare, right? So medium rare.
I loved that when I first learned it, and I used it. I've taught my kids. My kids know.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Everybody I can teach on a grill how to use that. It's almost exactly what it feels like. Yeah, I love it.
So
glad you showed that.
Yeah, don't be freaked out when you walk in the kitchen and you see people doing it. It's not psychosis, right? they're trying to tell the temperature of their steak. So index finger and thumb equals medium rare, right? Next finger, medium, then medium well, and then well. So that's one technique that's not the most professional, but very, very common, and you will see quite a bit. This is a little bit more in depth. Before we go too far, though, I highly recommend you are conscientious of carryover cooking. Just because you've taken the steak off the grill does not mean that it has stopped cooking. It's going to continue to cook. So if a customer orders a medium rare steak, do not pull it off when it's medium rare. You want to pull it off when it's a little bit under, because by the time it gets to their table in the dining room, it's going to reach its final temperature. That's one of the nuances that skill and experience provide. So just give yourself some time to work through that. Also, be very conscientious of the fact that not all steaks and all meat require the same amount of time of cooking. Chef Suzanne and I cannot sit here and tell you put a New York strip steak on the grill for 2.5 minutes on each side and it'll be medium rare. There's too many factors that come into play. Heat, ambient air temperature above the grill, which is a big factor, and size of steak, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things you have to learn. Rare is what we refer to as a cool center. Medium rare, you get a warm pink center. Medium, a little bit of pink left in it. And then medium well, hardly any pink. And then well done, not looking good. So these are the temperatures down here. This presentation has already been posted on your class page. So it's there. When you first start cooking, stick a thermometer into the thickest part of the steak. And you want to get in the rule of thumb of pulling it out about 5 degrees below where it should be. That will help accommodate for the carryover temperature. Anything to add to that there, Chef Suzanne?
I always like to add that I know when I went away to college, all I had ever had was a well-done steak. That's what I was raised on, and so that's all I ever had. And so once I started college, I would, if I had a steak somewhere or I went out or I made steak, I would try to go one step lower so that we talked about it when we started. I like raw beef. So,
yeah.
So for folks that are typically eating well done, next time you have a steak, try it so you can know the difference in the taste and the texture in beef. I just think that is a great thing to know, so that you can be able to explain product better. And you really should know how those things look and taste. So sometimes it takes a little time to kind of build up that bravery, but to go from what I gotta have well done, and then all of a sudden you may be eating medium steaks one day or raw beef. You just never know.
A lot of interesting comments in the kitchen when you get an order for a well done filet. A lot of comments, and generally they're not the most positive comments either. And they generally utilize certain 4-letter words that we just can't repeat here in the live session. So they're never going to say anything negative about somebody that wants to eat their meat well done. It just might be their customs. It might be from their growing up. But what Chef Suzanne is absolutely right. Give yourself the opportunity to expose yourself to the flavors, the juiciness, and the different textures of the meat. You might just find that you really like it. And eating well-done meat stems from many years ago when we did not have adequate refrigeration, and it was cooked all the way through to kill any potential bacterias, and we didn't have the same methods of preservation and distribution that we have today. So a lot of people were raised on well-done beef. Today, that's not the case. Rare, medium rare, is really the way to go, because you get the full flavor of the meat, the juiciness, the texture. So give yourself the opportunity. Let's talk about broiling versus grilling. The way I like to think about it, grill comes from underneath, broil comes from the top. We have special equipment in kitchens to broil steaks. So if anybody says, hey, I want my steak broiled, well, put it in the broiler. Don't put it on the grill. They're two separate things, not in the same ballpark. So this is a little explanation of the difference here. I don't want to get too much into it, but this is what we call an upright broiler that I've worked with at a couple of different places. They're kind of cool. And this is another upright broiler as well. They have very intense heat. The heat source is from the top and radiates down to the bottom. There's really little or no grill marks on the steak. It is done with radiant heat. So you can refer to that a little bit later. Diamond grill marks on steaks, right? Those are done for two primary reasons. One is to create a nice caramelization, and a second is a nice presentation. Obviously, we've learned so far that searing a steak doesn't necessarily keep the juices in, but it does help evolve the flavor and add a little bit more crispiness and change the texture a little bit. So those are the primary reasons that we do it. Basically, the way I like to explain it, the grill grates go up and down like this on a commercial grill. Straight ahead is 12 o'clock, right? You will start your steak, right, at 10 o'clock, let it cook for a moment or two, and then you're going to move it to 10 o'clock. So you're waving is what you're doing. And if you start at 10 o'clock, wait till it comes free, and then move it to 2 o'clock, wait till it comes free, flip it over, you will have beautiful diamond marks. On this sheet here, there is a brief explanation here on how to do it. These people use different times. I'm in a different time zone. They use 10 and 4 o'clock. I use 10 and 2 o'clock. So you can go ahead and read this. It's something that you should practice with. There's a video in here as well that I like. I don't think we have enough time to get to this video right now, but it's a super cool video on making the grill marks and grilling. So please take a moment to watch this. I think you will enjoy it. Any comments on the grill mark there, Chef Suzanne?
Again, there is in the video on the class page, there's some step-by-step of grilling steak, and there's a good section of the video that's devoted to the crosshatch marks. And I feel like that's where your grilling skills go from average to, professional. Home cooking to professional is that difference in presentation of those marks on your meat. I look for that when I get a steak, and I even try to do that at home. It's a little harder sometimes on your home grill, But it just, to me, it means that meat has been shown some love and attention.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's something to be proud of when you serve a steak with nice diamond marks on it. It comes from a professional, as your professional signature on that steak. And so it's something practice. You might not get it the first time. Just look at your grill, pretend it's a clock, right? Point one end of the steak at 10 o'clock. After 2 or 3 minutes, point the same end to 2 o'clock. Boom, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you're done. Go home. It's easy. So, Chef Suzanne, if you have any comments on this, there are some suggestions on this next one. I think I would really enjoy them because I know this is something that you really enjoy. Let's talk about chicken for just a few moments on the grill. Chicken is something that we do grill quite a bit. However, a la carte grilling of chicken is kind of gone away. It's not as prevalent as it used to be. And we're finding that we pre-grill a lot of chicken these days, where we'll mark it off on the grill and then we'll finish it in the oven. Chicken is a much more blonde meat, obviously, and so it has a tendency to caramelize and get those black charry spots. And it does take a little bit more attention because it is a little bit more delicate. You have a chicken breast that'll be very thick on one end and then narrows down to a much thinner part on the other end. So you don't want to have a dried out part and then a thick part. So grilling chicken does take a little bit of practice. Let's take a look at some recommendations over here. If you cook chicken on a hot grill, the skin's going to burn before the flesh cooks. So that's where we're getting into this hot spot, cold spot. And sometimes they recommend to turn the heat down a little bit when working with chicken to give it a little bit more time. And then drying out skinless, boneless chicken breast, yes, it does dry out, and that is an issue as well. And so that's one of the reasons we like to mark it on the grill to give the impression that it has been grilled, and then put it onto a sheet pan and finish it off in the oven. And then chicken is something that you have to keep your eye on, right? It's very, very important that you do not put the chicken on and then go outside and hang out for a while. It's something that could be quite bad. Chef Suzanne?
I think really the only thing to add with chicken is kind of like you were just talking about with beef. When it's ready to be turned or when it's ready to be flipped, it will release from the grill. If your grill was ready to go and properly seasoned or properly heated, it will, if you try to move it to, especially boneless chicken, skinless breast, skinless chicken breast, yes. That is very common in restaurants for health reasons. People eat a lot of it. But if you try to move that chicken breast too fast, it just tears. So when it's ready to be turned, to get the diamond marks and ready to be flipped, it'll release. So don't force those things, but that's when you have to be really careful of the hot spots on the grill, like Chef talked about. So
right,
you nailed it, Chef. You nailed chicken.
And a lot of people, and we used to do this back in the 80s. They used to like to marinate their chicken in oil-based marinades, which has some practicality. I understand. They were doing that with the assumption it would make the chicken more moist, which really doesn't work because chicken is not farinaceous, meaning it does not absorb moisture. It'll absorb flavor, but not moisture. And as a result, what happens is when people take the stuff out of the marinade, there's always oil that gets down and causes what we call a flare-up. A flare-up is when the flames begin shooting up above the grates of the grill, and it causes char onto whatever you're trying to grill. Char in excess can become very, very bitter, and that's not something that you want your flavor to have. So I personally, I'm not big into marinades on meat. If I am going to do it, I'll do a brine, which will be a water-based brine with salt and sugar, which will enhance the flavor of the chicken. I'm doing that. couple of things to think about for your assignment this week. Flare-up occurs if you're grilling really fatty foods, such as ribeye steak, which can have the kernel in there. And that fat liquefies, it drips down, and that reaction does give the food a bitter flavor. In restaurants, it's kind of a concern because sometimes those grills can become quite dirty, and that carbon, that black soot that we take for granted as just being nasty, is actually flammable. When it catches on fire, it can be very, very difficult to extinguish, and I've seen it happen many, many times over my career. We always keep a box of baking soda nearby to pour over those flames just in case that does happen. But as a rule of thumb, just keep your unit very, very clean. Commercial grills have a drip tray at the bottom about the size of a sheet pan that you pull out. You remove the foil that's on the top that collects all the soot, and then you lay the foil back down, and that will take care of the problem. And then they also have a catch or a drip pan that's located at the lip of the unit. Make sure you clean that out on a regular basis. To maintain this equipment, make sure you brush it regularly and wipe it down. Treat it like your car, nice and clean all the time, and you won't catch on fire. And then
actually around here, hey Chef,
yeah,
around here we cannot put foil on our drip trays.
Why not?
Because the health department says that they leave if they're not cleaned properly or often enough and the foil replaced, that food gets underneath there and makes a home for critters. So it is actually a health code violation around here. I don't know if it's a whole state. I'm not sure.
Wow.
It is, but no. So that is so you have to clean even more frequently, and yeah, no foil.
Wow, that's a hassle.
And you've no idea.
Yeah. Well, we for those of you watching, that would be very unfortunate to do that, because foil will save you from the hassle of having to clean. But that's interesting. They're doing that there, and unfortunate as well. Yeah. As well, when you're doing this at home, presumably this weekend for this week's assignment, make sure you use a little bit of extra care and caution when working with your grill. Make sure that your grill is far away from any flammable source, such as a roof or trees nearby. And then make sure you keep your small children away. And then make sure that you pay attention to what's going on. This is not something to walk away from. And also get yourself in the mood of a chef. This is not a family barbecue. This is serious stuff. So it takes a little bit of time. Let's talk quickly about compound butter. Compound butter is included in this week's assignment. It is something we use frequently in the restaurant industry. I believe this week they are asking for maitre d' butter, which is a very classic style of butter, lemon juice, shallots, Worcestershire, parsley, and I think garlic as well sometimes, salt and pepper. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that butter and put it in your mixer with those ingredients, blend it, and then you're going to take parchment paper, lay it flat, and then put the butter in the shape of a log down the center of the parchment paper, and you're going to roll it into the shape of a cigarette so it ends up something like this, right down here in the corner. And then you will place this into the freezer and get it cold. At that point, we pull it out in industry, and we have a small 6th pan of ice water, and we'll slice that butter into about 1/4 inch slices, like right here, and then we put it into the ice water. And then as we sell a steak throughout the night, we'll pull it out of the ice water, we put it on top of that nice hot steak, pop it into the salamander just to warm it just a little bit, and then when you get a steak at your table side, it is nice, warm, melty butter all over your steak. You don't have to stick necessarily with maitre d' butter, but I recommend it just to learn the classic technique. But there's a lot of different flavors you can add into that. We used to do chicken with a compound butter. We did dried apricots, roasted garlic, and manchego cheese inside the compound butter, and then melted that over the chicken breast, and that was a nice dish.
We actually had compound butter with dinner tonight.
Did you really?
Absolutely. We had some pan-seared steaks, and the compound butter I made had chopped capers, garlic, salt, and pepper.
Mm.
And it was so good. I forget sometimes how much I like capers. I bought them for something else. So that one, and I was bugging my husband, you got to try this. It's so good. This compound butter is so good. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds good.
Love it.
Yeah. So that's now I'm hungry. So what you're going to end up with at the accumulation, once again, this presentation is in your class page, so you can refer back to this. You're going to end up with a log just like that. Think about a large cigarette, parchment paper, butter down the center, roll it up, freeze it, slice it, ice water, grill comes off the grill, butter on top, bingo, you're in good shape. So compound butter can be a lot of fun. You can do a lot of different flavors. Let's take a look at this week's assignment. Here we go. This week's assignment, the usual sanitation, self-identification photo, and sanitizing bucket with test strips. Very, very important. Properly portioned protein for grilling. Maitre d' butter, preferably, or sauce, but we prefer the maitre d' butter because it's a good idea to learn the compound butter. Properly cooked vegetables and starch. Remember, that is in relation to your discussion forum. Properly grilled protein, preferably steak, but if you want to do chicken, that's perfectly fine as well. That's okay. Plated protein with starch, vegetable, appropriate garnish. I know Chef Suzanne was pretty excited about some of the presentations that she saw from week 10. So let's keep that going in week 11, and let's jack those presentations up and push it as far as you can. And then you're going to cut that protein in half and take a picture of it so you can show a proper interior doneness. And do not forget your narrative sheet. Very, very important. So any questions? Crystal?
No.
No? You got all that? You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm taking all that information in.
Okay, remember, you can refer back to everything we just talked about. It's right there on the class page for you already. So if there's anything that Chef Suzanne and I can do to help you out, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call. That's what we're here for. Right?
Okay.
All right. Chef Suzanne, do you have anything else to add?
I do. I'm looking at my notes for this particular assignment. One thing that I'm definitely looking for is crosshatch marks, so the diamond marks.
Mm-hmm.
If there's probably one photo that folks forget because it's a little unusual, and that's the protein cut in half. So that's not something that they normally have to do, but in this case, especially if you're making steaks, you want to cut it in half and just kind of show the interior of your steak. And I know we haven't addressed it yet, but I know that it will come up because not everyone has a grill. So this is the assignment that if for some reason, if you're watching and you don't have a grill, you need to make sure to reach out to Chef or I. And in most cases, you'll probably end up broiling instead for this assignment. But is that right, Chef? So
that's correct.
But only, but let us know that first so we can kind of coach you through it if there's anything we need to know. But don't freak out and run out and buy a grill tomorrow for this. If you can borrow a grill, or you can go to parks, city parks and things will have grills you can use sometimes. So there's, there are other options for you.
Sounds good.
For the vegetable, we have to grill it as well?
No.
No?
You're going to use one of the 9 cooking techniques that we've learned in this class. Yeah, it's your choice.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gents. Well, I guess ladies and gent. Thank you very much for a great live session. A lot of fun. I hope everybody has a great week. Don't forget to reach out and ask questions. We are here at your service. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.